What's up, guys? So if you haven't seen The Promised Neverland or Tokyo Ghoul, they're both pretty good animes, and they're really great at showing how life can be completely different than what it seems. Today, what we're going to be talking about is how both these animes changed in the themes at the beginning of the series and determined who did it better. And if you like these videos, please subscribe so you can see when I post new videos like this. So let's just start with Tokyo Ghoul and give you a backstory of what was going on before the change in theme. So we start off with the main character Kaneki, who is a quiet, shy teenage boy who lived with his mother all the way up until she died. Kaneki was always the loner type and didn't really talk to much people other than his friend Hide. One day we see them hanging out at a coffee shop talking about what Kaneki should do on a date with a parent girl that he wants to ask out. Meanwhile, the camera is pointing to the TV, describing an apparent ghoul attack that happened nearby. That's when we find out that these ghouls eat humans, and even though they only need one body and that can last them for a whole month, they do have some people that eat multiple, showing how unhuman-like these creatures are. That's when it cuts to Kaneki on his date, and we see the first signs that something is odd about the girl when they eat at the restaurant. She only takes one bite out of her sandwich and then goes to the bathroom. Eventually the date ends and she asks him to walk her home because she's scared of the recent ghoul attacks. But as she leads him to a dark alleyway, we see Kaneki build up the courage to ask her on another date. We see the nervousness in his eyes and it looks like she's having feelings for him too. That's when we see that her intentions with him is a little different than his. Apparently, the girl that he was going on a date with was a ghoul the whole time, and the only reason why she went on a date with him was to eat him. That's when we see the main character flung around like a wet rag with what seems to be a hopeless death. But right before she starts to feed on the main character, she is struck above by a rail, and this ends up killing her. The next scene we see is Kaneki waking up at the hospital. We see that he has a loss in appetite, and later in his bedroom we see that as we watch TV that ghouls are unable to eat human foods. As the day turns to night, we see Kaneki walking in a crowded area. We see his hunger get to him, but instead of craving regular food, he's craving human flesh. Now his right eye, instead of being normal, is that of a ghoul. That's when he remembers that basic utilities, like kitchen knives, are not able to cut ghoul's flesh, so he picks up a knife and tries it. But it doesn't work. As he walks the streets in hunger, he smells something good. He runs after what's smelling good to him, and it leads him into an alleyway. That's when he sees what's attracting him, a human corpse. That's when we see that a parent ghoul that seems to be nice asked him if he wanted a piece of the human corpse. And it looks like not all ghouls are bad, but that ghoul immediately dies after another ghoul comes and he's mad that this ghoul is on his territory. This is when we see that the main character might die again. But luckily he's saved by a girl that he actually already seen at the coffee shop, and she protects him from the other ghoul. But as they discuss him eating part of the human corpse, we see that he ends up disrespecting ghouls altogether, which rightfully angers her, and she shoves a piece of that human flesh inside his mouth. So in conclusion, we start off with a shy boy, and in the same episode see him almost die from a ghoul twice and turn into one himself. Then we got The Promised Neverland. In this series, it starts off with a girl named Emma and her two friends, Ray and Norman. And if you haven't seen a theme here, if there's an alleyway in an anime, something bad is going to happen. We see Emma have a conversation with the two boys about how mom always told him not to go near the fence or gate behind the forest because it's apparently dangerous. We also find out that they have no idea what's outside of the gate because they've been inside since they were born. That's when the camera shows a scene of the house right in the middle of the surrounding gates. And we also see more of the settings of what the character is in right now. She's living in an orphanage with 38 other kids, and she's the oldest at the age of 11. We see that everyone seems to be very happy, and so is the main character. And this is also the first time that we meet Connie, a 5-year-old girl who always carries a stuffed bunny around with her. And we also get the mentions of something called the bar exam. Meanwhile, the camera angle constantly zooms to the numbers that are tattooed on the side of their necks. This gives us a feeling that something is unordinary around here. But we also see how caring the mother figure is. Next, we see the children take the bar exam, and apparently it is to test how smart they are. And by the look of their faces, this is a very important test. Emma, including Norman and Ray, has one of the highest scores out of all 38 kids, while Connie, the 5-year-old girl, expresses how she didn't even get most of the questions. But as kids, they don't really get too bummed out about this test, and they go outside and play tag. While playing tag, we realize that Connie is being adopted and that she's leaving that night. We see the sadness in everyone's eyes as she stands in front of the front door as she expressed her feelings of not wanting to leave. But obviously, Mother's there to comfort her and send her off her way. We see Mother and Connie walk to the front of the gate with a lantern in her hand while she's humming a song. Meanwhile, at the house, Emma realized that Connie left her bunny, something that she always keeps with her, and becomes frantic. So Emma and Norman hurry to the front of the gate to bring Connie her stuffed animal, something she always have with her. As they get to the gate, we see that the gate is open and there's also a truck, but Mother and Connie is nowhere in sight. They eventually look in the back of the truck and you can see the lifeless body of Connie, and you can look at the horror in Emma's face. But she doesn't really have much time to go into shock because not too long after, they hear a voice and immediately hides under the truck. That's when we see these unhuman-like monsters put Connie's body in what looks like a pickle jar for humans, while also raving about how tasty humans are. We also see that one of the 3 monsters have really good smelling because he knew that somebody was there. That's when we see in horror that he looks underneath the truck. But Emma and Norman is not there. But we do see that they left one important thing there, which is the bunny. The camera cuts to them running as fast as they can towards the house. We see them come to the realization that they're being harvested, and we see Emma scream as loud as she can in pain. Later, we see them discuss on what they saw and come to the realization that they need to leave immediately. We see them come to the fact that they all need to run away while somehow not getting caught and not knowing what's on the other side of the gate. But because they left the bunny, obviously Mother knows what's going on. Somebody in the house knows the secret. So both really good animes and did very well at leading the viewer to one direction while also giving you a small hint of something eerie, and then completely turning the show in a different direction. But who did it better? And now that you have the same background as me on both of these series, I can come to the conclusion, in my opinion, The Promised Neverland did it better. While both lean it into the fact that the main character is very innocent, I think The Promised Neverland did it better with the fact that the main character is only 11 years old. We also see that The Promised Neverland used most of the episode really to give you the setting of what the characters are in. While Tokyo Ghoul was showing a shy boy talking to his friend on what he should do on a date, The Promised Neverland was showing you a group of happy kids in an orphanage. Yes, Kaneki's life was pretty sad, losing a mother and a father at a young age, but all 38 kids didn't even meet their biological parents and were still happy. The way that The Promised Neverland spent more time bringing you into the world that they were living in, showing you all the happiness and joy that these kids were having, the change in mood was a lot greater when we find out what was actually happening. Both animes had pretty bad circumstances, but you will notice that you have more emotional investment with all 38 kids versus the one teenager who ended up being alive at the end anyway. One has a 5-year-old girl die in their mood shock, while the other one had a crazy man-eating creature in theirs. But this is all just my opinion. If you'd like to add or feel a different way, just let me know in the comments.